All right, so Liz, thank you for joining to our episode 5 of our stories, where we focus on successful women leaders globally. So I'm sure one of your insights and the stories that you're going to share with us is going to will be inspiration to a younger generation of women who are watching us, right?
Thank you. Thank you, Arzuv. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here and participating in this episode. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. Thank you for taking out time and talking to us. So Arzuv will lead the conversation and I'll just chime in as and when.
Right. So, Liz, you are the marketing director at SentinelOne, right? And so, how does your day at SentinelOne look like?
As a marketing director for APJ, I cover the entire APJ region. But my is APJ region and my stakeholders, key stakeholders are also outside. So I have key stakeholders in America, in Silicon Valley, and in Amsterdam, in our headquarters in EMEA. So my day starts with calls with America, and then I support my team waking up and doing their job in Australia, Japan, Korea, ASEAN, and then I finish my day with India and EMEA. So,
wow. I mean, that sounds very interesting.
Talking
I
about
love it.
talking about diversity, I mean,
Yeah.
perfect example.
Exactly. And very dynamic. That pushes me to always be aware of other cultures, be aware of other ways of doing business, and be more sensitive to these granularities, right, of life.
Absolutely.
Right. And now it's the end of the year, I'm sure needs to be packed, like with all the meetings and the projects to wrap up, right?
Yes, it's very packed. And in addition to that, we have to accommodate the one-on-ones, the Christmas parties.
Right. So, all right. So, Liz, while growing up, all of us has an inspiration for us always to look up to someone, right? So, for you, while growing up, who were the women in your life that have served as an inspiration?
Yeah, I love this question. Well, I don't know if many people know, but I am not Asian, as you can see. I was born in Brazil. I was born and raised in Brazil,
Wow.
and only when I was 18 or only when I was 29 was when I moved out of Brazil. So my whole life, most of my life was in Brazil, and the women in Brazil are amazing. Women here in Asia Pacific are amazing as well, but my mother has always been an inspiration and a role model for me. She's a hunter, a startup, a investor and entrepreneur in a country where it's very, very hard to be an entrepreneur. And she founded her own business, a language school 40 years ago, and survived every single bumpy road of the economy, macroeconomy, economic crisis, political crisis. I think you've heard about the latest one in Brazil as well. And she's there, and she's 70 now. I hope she doesn't kill me for saying her age on live broadcast, but she's 70, and she's just launched together. We just launched a book about 22 women that made history. This is a brand new.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So she's still there, innovating, reaching out. So that has to be an amazing role model and an inspiration, right? And second to her are my two sisters. So my two sisters and my brother, they're also amazing people. That their role in my life, I think, is to keep me grounded, to keep me to snap out of it. They're the ones that when I go with them, talking about, oh, my life is horrible. And they say, okay, step out of it, wake up, and do something about it.
Yeah, I know. I myself have a sister. I know sisters' power. They always make you grounded.
Exactly. And
So
then
Liz, you were talking about this book. So has it been launched, or are you looking at launching it in 2023?
yes, it was launched. It was a 4-year project that started
Wow,
with my mother, and then I'm also an author, so we
amazing.
wrote the book together. Well, she wrote most of it. I helped her edit and choose the 22 women, because this year is Brazil's 202 centuries of independence, the
Oh, wow.
anniversary. So her idea was, she read a book by another author in the UK that
Mm-hmm.
treated history in the same format. So her
Mm-hmm.
idea was, let's celebrate these 200 years of independence that has been mostly written by men about men.
Wow.
So let's spin it, because there were amazing women that also participated in that making of Brazil, in the making of this country, that were never recognized. So now it's the time to recognize. So she went all the way back to the independence, the first princess in Brazil, in the emperor part. And we chose 22 women that made history. So we told history, but through their point of view and their story of life,
Wow.
and how they had to break standards, go out there, think outside the box, fight for the good fight in order to accomplish what they accomplished. So, and
Wow.
yes, it is
That's
launched.
amazing.
It's in Amazon. Unfortunately, it's
Oh.
not in English. We're trying to get funding to translate. It's 2 volumes, it's
Wow,
700
amazing.
pages.
Amazing, amazing. I can
Yeah.
totally get it, given the fact that you all have, researched for almost 4 years before launching it. That talks about, what a difficult decision it would be to choose these 22 bright women, I mean, of the talent pool that you might have on the table, to pick and choose, handpick them would have been like, scratching your heads all around, I'm sure.
We were. At one stage, we had 35 women. It's going to take us 10 years to write this book. We can't afford it. But yeah, you're totally right, Shamoil. It was very hard to pick these women and make that choice, because it's so, we have to celebrate our contribution. We have to
Absolutely,
celebrate.
absolutely.
And there were so many women, they're still amazing contributors that don't get that platform, right? They don't
Right.
get a thank you.
Exactly. In fact, we at hers are exactly that, Liz. I mean, the concept of hers when our founder Manan Sheikh had this idea of launching hers as an entity, we were of the opinion that we are going to take this as a platform to ensure that women out there get an equal opportunity to express themselves, and we give them everything out here, all the tools for success out here, and just nurture their talent. So that itself brings to my next question to you, Liz. I mean, you've hit the nail on the head. You've spoken about, men talking about men, and over the years, or I would say over the last couple of decades, there has been a paradigm shift where we see so many influential women at posts like VPs, directors, and C levels. So what is your take on their decision-making skills as compared to the traditional approach that men have?
I would say that there are, as you said, Shamo, by the way, I would like to thank you and congratulate you for this initiative. It's beautiful.
Thanks so much.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so
Beautiful.
much.
Thank you.
It's inspiring, and I feel honored to have been
Likewise, Liz.
invited
Likewise.
to be part of this. So thank you. Thank you for that. In terms of answering your question, there are so many examples of so many different women that approached their leadership or
Mhm.
their approach in getting things done differently. And I think
Right.
it all depends on the environment that you are, because sometimes we can't afford to be what the standard, or the standard that everyone says, that women are more empathetic than men. I don't believe that. I believe that
Right.
everyone is equally capable of being empathetic or cold towards a situation.
True.
What it
Right.
matters, exactly, but what it matters is bringing priorities. is keeping the priorities in mind. And historically, women, because we are the bearers, right? We are the child bearers. We have been with the priorities is keeping that new life alive and thrive and grow. And now, not now, but after the 70s, and with the revolution in the 1800s and the suffragettes, they were the ones who started and saying, "Hey, you asked us to work here while our husbands went to the war, and now you're telling me to go back to the kitchen? That's not going to happen, right? That's still not going to happen." And that's when revolutions really happen, when there's the need. And thank God there is the need. And now we are being more and more recognized that even though we want to take care of the new life that is coming back, the husbands are helping us be at the work environment while they take care of the kids.
Absolutely.
That is also happening, which is beautiful, right? So it is, I think when I saw my mother struggling in having her own business, having to work 10 hours a day and still take care of 4 kids.
Wow.
4 kids, almost by herself. And my sisters, I don't have kids myself, but my sisters went through the same thing. But now I see their husbands supporting them in a very different way. My brother, he is the one that most of the time, they both work really, really long hours, but at night to put the girls to bed, and they have 4 kids, as well.
Wow.
The girls taking shower and giving the bath and so on, and changing nappies, he's there together with his wife. So I think that's what is changing the most, Shamoil, is not we are changing, but we are changing the environment around us. Because without that, we can't do much, right? We will fight, and we won't get anywhere. So that's my perspective on these great leaders, female leaders that led the way.
Yes, in fact, I second that, Liz, because now we've seen many instances where it's more of a partnership between the couples, between the partners. It's not something where the guy takes it for granted. Okay, fine, you know what? She's going to take care of the household chores, and I'm going to go and work, or vice versa. So it's like a complete 50-50 partnership with mutual respect. That's something which is very refreshing. The mutual respect that the partners have for each other is something very refreshing. So yeah, good deal.
And of course, that unfortunately is not as mainstream, right? Unfortunately, there are, especially here in Asia Pacific, there are cultures or regions within these cultures that they're still 200 years ago, right? And for me, and I've learned this from my mother, it all starts with education. It all starts with education and empowering the girls through allowing them the same level, high level of education that the boys get.
Amazing.
And that's where it all starts.
Yes, because I think that again, so brilliantly put, Liz, because that again will give them self-confidence right at the tender age, and that will help them in decision-making skills when they are, making a name for themselves. So as long as you give them that self-confidence while they are growing up, it reflects in their work as well. Brilliantly put again.
Exactly. And give them the sense of worth.
Yes.
Right? That they are more than just a child bearer or more than just a pretty face. Yes, we can be pretty and intelligent at the same time. What's wrong with that?
Absolutely.
Right? It's not one or the other. And if I'm not pretty, I'm awesome. So in my own way.
With a capital A.
Exactly. And it's sad to see that a few cultures still don't view that. The future. There was a study that was made last year. I think quite a few publications covered this study, and it was done by an American firm across most of the countries in the world. And they brought data points that proved that the countries that invested in female and women's education were the ones with the most prospect.
Wow.
As soon as the country stopped investing in education, but not education in general, education for women,
For women.
they stumped. The growth stumped, or they were more susceptible for economic crisis or political crisis and so on.
Beautiful. In fact, you've just subconsciously you've just answered our next conversation about how empowered women empower women, and you've just spoken about that. So yeah,
Yeah.
amazing, amazing.
Yeah, so since and you with your responsibilities at your organization is you as you mentioned already, you cover most of the Asia regions, right? And with that saying, you must have already been exposed, to many various cultures in Asia, like, where the discussion of women empowerment is quite different, and then, the ones have been before, the ones it's going now, right?
Yes.
Which and then which leads to, since we started talking about priority, so how do you think can women support other women in various organizations, especially leadership roles?
I believe, Arzuv, that we can do a lot in several layers or levels.
Yeah.
I think it all starts with how you can impact your other peers, your female peers around you. And we start with the micro when we can go all the way to the macro. So I was a very long time contributor to one of the amazing charities that is called Room to Read, that invests in helping remote regions in Asia Pacific to build schools and make sure that the girls go to school with books, with uniform, and they have that infrastructure. So they are amazing. This is one example of a charity that works towards that, empowering women, empowering kids to be better, to read, right? To read and write is the basic need nowadays. Now, so this is on the macro aspect that we can continue doing and keep on talking about these amazing charities. On a micro aspect, how I hope that I'm doing it already and I can do even more, is helping the peers, my female peers and my team members, the females and males in my team members, to understand what kind of empowerment they need. Because I think there's a difference, right? There's the story about the little bird that was kicked out of the nest to Earth, and it couldn't fly.
Yeah.
So there's no point of empowering someone who's not ready to be empowered, because sometimes to have a massive failure and be capable of picking yourself up again, dusting yourself off, and keep on going up, it's very hard. It's very hard when you feel that you don't have the support. So when I have my team, and I have a team of phenomenal marketers, and two of them are women, they are completely different people, and they are completely different. They have different needs. One of them is super experienced, super cool, and all I have to do is say, so do you need any help? No, great. That's it. Can I bounce off some ideas with you? Yeah, let's do it. So I don't have to do much, but I'm there for her. And knowing that if she needs any kind of financial support, budget, and more infrastructure, I'm there for her. The other, she needs more help in knowing what she doesn't know. Support in coaching her on how to be successful, how to minimize risks, because we all want to be successful. We all want all of our women to be successful, but to be successful is a journey, is a learning journey, and sometimes letting them fail by themselves is too risky. We can't afford always to let them fail by themselves. We can't afford that. So how can I support them, empower them, but protect them from failure? And that is so complex, right?
Yeah.
So complex.
It's so complex, and it's a thin line, Liz. Also, fine, from your end, you've given all the cushioning that your team or your subordinates may require, but at the same time, it's a thin line that they don't take it for granted or don't take advantage of it. Okay, they would know that fine. Liz has that support bearing on us, and why not just wiggle that little bit of room and take it for my advantage. So it's a very thin line which you are at your level, to draw that. So kudos to you on that bit.
That's a great point, Shamoil, that I think you're touching on the essence of leadership and the
Yes.
essence of working together. And one thing that COVID-19 taught me a lot was the power of building trust, not only between nations, between companies, between technologies, between people.
Right.
And what we lost was the hooks that we used to have to
True.
build that rapport. Those water cooler conversations that we used to have.
Yes.
Remember the bump into the corridor and saying, "Hey, how are you doing?" We lost that.
Yes.
And with that, I lost my power to build rapport with my own team.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I had to really go and make loads of mistakes before I realized that I was the problem of building that trust. It had to start from me, because they are there and they are doing their own thing. They don't know what they don't know.
True.
It's up to me to build the trust and make sure that they trust me, that I'm here to support them and see
True.
them succeed. I'm not coming from a micromanagement level. I don't want to micromanage you. I want to support you.
Yes.
Right? And that's before they can say, yes, I want your support. I welcome your support. It comes the trust.
Very, very
Yeah,
true.
very true.
In fact, you know what? Again, on the water break that you were talking about, it's far more easy to say that, hey, Liz, you know what? Can I take a couple of days off? My friends are coming in, and I need to take a quick break, rather than having that conversation in a closed cabin or a cubicle. So that's brilliantly put, because that makes you feel more approachable as a leader, and your team can confide in you and say it, so to speak. I think that works both ways. So again, yeah, amazing.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly.
Right. So I have this question, which is one of my favorite questions I ask of in almost all the interviews. So what other, some practical steps have you taken? For example, maybe have you supported or helped to support within the scope of your responsibility, to reduce the barriers that women are facing, such as flexible working hours, maternity leave, remote working, or work-life balance. For example, for a woman, how it's quite challenging most of the time to keep this balance between a corporate job and their life at the home as well.
Yeah, I love your question as well, Arzuv. I love that question. I understand why you ask it every single interview.
Yeah.
It's a very complex question, right? It's a complex question. I would say that there's always the personal support and the physical support, and I'll explain why. Now, in marketing, in enterprise marketing, that's the industry that I'm at. We are kind of very fortunate and cursed by the dynamic of our environment, because what we do is project based. So that gives us the flexibility or the pressure to deliver the project no matter the time. So I tell my team, and I've always told my team members in all of my career being a leader, it's like, I don't care if you work from 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. I don't care if you start your day at 10 a.m. and finish at 7, or you do the opposite, or start at 5 a.m. and finish at 4. It doesn't matter. As long as we focus on what we are delivering with the quality that we need to deliver in the timeline that we want to deliver. It doesn't matter. So that alone, it gives them the power to take the kids to school, or have a day off because the kid is sick, or have a day off because the parents are coming to visit the baby for the first time, or have a baby. Because that's, and I think that's why in marketing you see more women
Right.
succeeding. One of my CMOs, it's another role model that I've met recently. I don't report to her anymore. I moved companies, but she's an amazing woman. And one of her stories that she has 2 kids, and she became the CMO of this company when she had the first baby, and then when there was a massive acquisition happening, she was pregnant and she had the baby during this massive acquisition, global acquisition. She would, and apologies to say that if this is sensitive, but she would pump her breasts in the side meeting, have a break, pump her breast, put in the bottle, do the baby, and go back to the
Wow.
So in other jobs, unfortunately, you don't have that flexibility, right? If you are in the military, if you are in the oil rigs, if you are a support worker, sometimes you don't have that flexibility, and I think that's why in marketing you see more women. But that's one of the ways that I can always support them. But there's always, Arzuv, the biggest challenge is for the own personal female worker to know that she has that support.
Yeah.
That for me was the hardest barrier to break. In the part of building rapport and trust that I mentioned before was to be consistent. And when I said not pay lip service, when I say I don't care what time you work, as long as we're delivering high quality campaigns, I cannot go back to them and say, hey, it's 9 o'clock, where are you?
Sure.
Right? If they tell me I have to take this Friday off, and I keep on messaging them, it's like, I need this report. Where is this report? It's not empowering them, right? It's paying lip service.
Yes.
So, and I will make mistakes. I will send you a message because I forget that you are on it.
True, of course.
So, but I always remind them, if I send you a message outside your working hours, or during your leave or your sick leave, please know that you can ignore me. Just
I know that very well because this is mentioned on your signature as well. The little I think she's so sweet. Like, I mean, she understands that, sometimes you also have to, beyond our shifting hours, like, to respond to emails or to deliver some, as you said, campaigns and that. And I've read that because I love, paying attention to details. And then I was reading, wow, she's so considerate. Like, she could understand, like, especially for other people, what kind of challenges we might be facing. And then I totally support that,
Absolutely, Liz. I mean, there are tons of people that you would come across who talk similar things to what you've just mentioned, but there are only a handful who adhere to them and who follow them. So again, kudos to you, and I'm sure your team is so lucky to have you as their decision maker.
But I make mistakes as well. I'm not, by far, I'm not perfect. If they hear this interview, they're going to say, what? I'm not perfect. But I think the acknowledgement is part of the life.
Right. And obviously, I mean, learning never stops, It's every day that you learn, but I'm sure they're super pleased that they have a boss in you. So that's amazing. In fact, you've touched based on your family that shows us that how close you are to your sisters, to your mom. Now you've spoken about this bit as well, where you nicely close knit your team and treat them as equals. So while growing up, is there anything else now in hindsight that you want to look at and say that, hey, you know what, Liz, I think you should have done this a little better than what you did? Do you regret any of your decisions that you've taken in the past, or do you think you could have done better?
Oh, for sure. Sure, Shamoil. Do you have 2 hours? No, so many. I think it comes with my personality.
Right.
One thing, and I'm going through a coaching program that I was very fortunate for this the SentinelOne to have provided me and allowed me to go through the coaching program. And one of the key aspects two aspects that I've learned in this past few months, or relearned, right, in this past 2 months. So many, but two that come to mind is one, what you did yesterday or what you do today doesn't mean that it's going to make you successful tomorrow.
Right.
Right. So as you evolve, as you grow, as you become more ambitious or you grow in your career, what I did yesterday, that doesn't mean that it's going to make me successful tomorrow. And
Sure.
one example of that is I started my career being the only marketing person in this region. For a lot of the companies that I've worked for large corporations, but the last 7 or 8 years, I've worked for companies that were massive in America and EMEA, but they were just starting in Asia Pacific. So I was employee number 1 in marketing.
Wow.
And for a very long time, I had to do it all by myself. I was an octopus in marketing, doing everything and running around and getting everything done. Now that I have a team, I have to learn how to delegate. I have to learn that, yes, it could be faster if I did it myself, but I have to step back.
True.
And coach them on how to do it, because I am needed somewhere else.
Absolutely.
So that's point number 1, that I always have to keep in mind, what made me successful yesterday doesn't mean that it will make me successful tomorrow. So I have to keep on learning. I have to keep my eyes open, my ears open for moments where I need to change. I need to change, not them. I need to change. And that comes also with my personality. I am a Brazilian who met an Aussie bloke in Brazil, got married, moved to London, started my career, pivoted my career into marketing when I was already 20 something, 29, 25. So it was my second career. Moved to Asia, lived in Australia, then lived in New Zealand, moved back, and now I'm the marketing director for Asia Pacific in Singapore.
Wow.
So I would have
So,
not.
sorry, go ahead, Liz. Go ahead.
So I would have not arrived where I am today if I didn't have the drive, if I didn't have the hunter DNA that I got from my mother, right? I would not be able to be here. But sometimes the same drive is too much.
Right.
Sometimes the same drive
It's
is
overwhelming.
mistaken.
Yeah.
Exactly. Is mistaken by the bull in a china shop. So there were moments that in order to be successful, I had to be the bull. And that bought me a lot of enemies.
Right.
Made a lot of bridges. And if I could go back, I said, was it really needed? Was that intensity really needed? Maybe I could have gone, maybe we could have waited a little bit longer for that result to come. Right? But then it's very easy to say what ifs, right? But today, I'm more conscious of my drive, and sometimes it's not the best for the long term.
Right.
So a lot of mistakes that I've made in the past, it wasn't because I was wrong, but because sometimes it was the wrong moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
True. Nicely put. Nicely put. In fact, I was very curious to know something completely out of context. But since you've touched base on at least 5 to 6 countries, it would be interesting to know who was your team that you supported at the FIFA World Cup, because most of the teams are playing FIFA, whichever that you've spoken right now.
Yes, definitely Brazil. And I was heartbroken to see them going, heartbroken. But I was very, very great to see the African countries getting to the semifinals for the first time. They fight so much to be there.
True.
You have no idea. We have no idea.
True.
Truly, we have no idea how harder it is to get what they are from a
Absolutely.
country that is in 90% of or 80% of the country is in poverty line, below poverty line.
Absolutely.
So I love seeing them there. But yeah, so we have our rivals that I don't want to see win, but hey, that's more personal.
True. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Right. So, I mean, as we are listening, I mean, it's so wonderful to listen to your experiences and the, insights and the stories about you, your life, your, professional life. It is so inspiring, Liz. And then, since you already have like a handful of experience in many ways, so from your experience, what is the one, takeaway that you would like to share with women who, they just started their career in marketing or in tech, or they're, paving their way?
Oh, it's a hard one. It's a hard one. I would say just go for it.
Mm,
Don't question yourself.
mm,
If you want to, if you have the guts,
mm,
if your whole core is telling you to go forward, go forward.
yeah.
Don't worry about, because if I am talking about the mistakes that I've made for being too much of a driver, right?
Mm,
Today I can afford to be like that. But
mm,
if I were like that when I was in my 20s, and I kid you not, I finished university. I
mhm,
had £1,000 in my bank account. Just that, £1,000. And I said, you know what? And I won a ticket to London in a prize draw. It was the only thing that I won in my life. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to make these £1,000 last a year. And I'm going to go to London. I'm going to experience something else. I was in a little town in Brazil, in São Paulo. I'm going to try to happen in London, and I'm going to make it happen. And if it wasn't for that moment, and my mother supported me, my sister said, "Are you crazy? Are you out of your mind?" But I went, and I crashed, and I burnt, and I cried, and I laughed, and I went back to Brazil with my tail underneath my legs, but I picked myself up and I did it again. And that is what it has for someone starting. Do it. Don't wait. Don't question. But what if? But what if? No. Do what if when it happens. Right?
Yeah.
Unless it's something that is against your personal values, that is against integrity, and is
True.
against the law, don't do it. If it's against the law, don't do it. But if it's against the law and is integrity and is with your personal values, go for it. Don't
Yeah.
question.
Right.
Amazing,
Such a
amazing.
motivation.
Such motivational words to know, and such an inspiration, Liz. I mean, I was just taking a look at the clock, and 45 minutes have just blown by. And
Yeah.
I mean,
Exactly.
I can't thank you enough, Liz, for sharing these thoughts with us. So some final takeaways before we let you go. Any words of wisdom, any advice, any one-liners that you live by?
Yeah. Mottos.
Oh wow. I don't see myself as a wisdom person. I am still learning. I'm still learning. I'm still crashing and burning. And I think that's the beauty of life. That's the beauty of
Yeah.
life. I'm a perfectionist. So for
Wow.
me to say I'm crashing and burning, I'm still learning is so hard
I
because I'm
know.
perfectionist, and
It is.
everything that I do has to be perfect from the first time. So this coaching program that I'm in actually it triggered me to go back and learn a new skill. So
Right.
right now I've decided to learn to play the guitar. So
Oh,
I bought a
amazing.
guitar
Amazing.
and I'm learning it and I suck at it. I'm so bad.
Wow.
I'm so bad, but it's okay because that moment of being really, really bad, it's reminding me every day that I am not perfect. Everything that I
Amazing.
do does not have to be perfect all the way from the get-go, from scratch. There's a journey. And
Right.
I need to be kind to myself in order
Mhm.
to allow myself to go through that journey. Now, making a mistake once, it's okay, go for it. But making that same mistake twice, then is a problem.
Yeah. Then it is a problem.
Yeah.
Because life is telling you that you're not learning. So you're being hard-headed.
So yeah, lessons are keep repeating and repeating, right?
Exactly.
Amazing, Liz. Amazing. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for your time. It has been an
Yeah.
absolute treat to hear you speak. And I mean, as your audience, we've enjoyed the session. Thank you so much for your time again.
Yeah.
Thank
It
you.
was such
Thank
an inspirational conversation. Like, thank you again for joining and then, sharing your experiences and the stories with us. So yeah, I'll just stop the recording now.
Oh, but just before you stop the recording,
Yeah. Yeah.
I just wanted to reiterate and thank you again, not
Mhm.
only for allowing me to share my story today, and it's such an honor, such a humbling honor, to have been invited to participate. And thank you for your initiative and your what you do. It's so beautiful what you guys are doing, and I'll support in any way, shape, or form. Thank you. And I look
Likewise,
forward to
Liz.
hearing more stories of amazing women out there
Yeah.
that are doing in the unsung heroes, that are doing way more than what I do. I work in marketing, for crying out loud. I'm not saying saving lives. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Likewise, Liz, we'll surely
Likewise.
be in contact and in touch in the future
Yeah.
as well to host you again in 2023. And
Mhm.
also, we would love to have support like, leaders like you to, support our initiative as well. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks.